I was outside this morning and this Aries retrograde is eating the people up. Okay. Along with this upcoming Chiron retrograde is eating the people up. I'm just watching people just move in frustration and just allowing the tension and the conflicts and the challenges to really get to them. And we are early in this energy. We are early in this energy. It hasn't even really popped off, right? So I wanted to not only talk a little bit more about that, but I'm gonna share my screen. Oh, I hope y'all can see me. It's saying that the connection is a little slow. I hope y'all can still see me and hear me. Can y'all see and hear? Y'all can see in here? Okay, perfect. It was saying that the connection was a little off. All right, perfect. As long as y'all can see in here, that's fine. On my end, it's saying it is off, but that's perfectly fine. So I not only do I want to talk a little bit more about that, but I'm going to share my screen like Queen Ellen and I was doing yesterday, and I'm going to show y'all how I see and understand what I'm seeing and understanding, right? And some things that you can pay attention to. But not only that, but I also want to be able to show y'all how to apply this to your own personal natal chart, because like many people was asking Queen L yesterday, and people always ask me during my lives, what does this mean for this placement? If I'm a moon in Leo, what does this mean for me, right? So what I hope everybody has done by this point is pulled up your natal chart, right? I hope Queen L, in this case, it's not them, it's me. So them backing out of the I wish I could be able to put y'all comments on the screen, but them backing out of the Patreon is not gonna help this time, Queen L, because it's on my end. It's saying that my connection is unstable. So if I start to go out for y'all, it's more than likely me. But I'll let y'all know when hopefully the Wi-Fi will pick back up and get a little better. But Mercury retrograde, right? You know, hopefully. Okay. Okay, you said you can see it here. Perfect. It's working well now, but I'm getting the loading sign at the top, so hopefully it stays that way. But I'm gonna show y'all how to be able to apply this. Oh, thank you, Goddess Kira. How to be able to apply this to your personal natal chart, right? So I'm gonna show y'all the same simple web page that I was using that I showed y'all yesterday and how I look at it. I'm gonna share my screen with y'all so y'all can see that, and then we'll talk about the Aries retrograde, Chiron retrograde, and I'm going to show you how to apply it to your chart. Now, I'm going to tell y'all this. I'm being very honest here. I have a little advantage with how I look at the planetary alignments, although y'all know I consider myself a baby still in everything. So despite me having a lot of knowledge about, aspects and planets and spiritual meanings of like zodiac signs and the planetary alignment and things like that, I do have a little of advantage because I tap into my spiritual gifts of mediumship, right? And sight, clairvoyance, to get that sight of what's to come, right? But even without that, you can get an understanding of how this may impact you personally and some things that you pay attention to. So although I may be able to foresee specific situations, right, and know that like, okay, this place or this location or this person or this thing is going to come and do this, that's where my gift of sight comes into play and kind of helps like give a more detailed vision. But what I will tell y'all is that you, even without that, can do the same thing for yourself by just applying your natal chart to this information. Now, again, going back to the screen, and I told you, if it's going in and out, first off, number one, 2 pieces of advice. Join, as I always say, join from the website instead of the app. So open up your browser and join from the website instead of the app. As I always say, join from the website instead of the app because it works better on the website. Okay. But also, as I just explained, my Wi-Fi is doing its thing, right? So it might be me, it might not be you. If you're still having issues once you join from the website, it definitely might just be me, and that's okay. Okay. But hopefully this is being recorded. Now, and this is the site that I told y'all I like to use. It's called The Planets Today, right? As I explained yesterday, for those of you who saw that live or at least watched the replay, I like this site because it's very, very simple, but you do have to do a little simple math. The good thing about AstroSeek, which is what Queen L showed y'all, is that it has the lines, and the lines are color coded, so you can follow the lines to understand like what's opposing, the opposing energies, the squares, and so on and so forth, right? So you can follow the lines for that on AstroSeek, which is great. For me, I just count up my degrees, right? I count it. Of course, everything is divided by 30 degrees. So I count like my 3, 6, 9, my 3, 6, 9, 12 to understand the trine. So I'm going to explain to y'all how I do that. But specifically for this Aries retrograde and this Chiron retrograde and how it's working in the planetary alignment as a whole. And then I'll follow up with talking about the natal charts and how to apply your own personal natal chart. Now, again, just a quick reminder, what I love about this site is that you can see it in Western as well as Vedic as well as Hindu astrology. So you have the option to switch here and see the same placements, but in Hindu astrology, okay, in Vedic astrology, so you can see it there. And if that's your preference, you can definitely feel free. But y'all know I'm a Western astrology kind of girl. Another good thing about this site is if you scroll down, it kind of gives you a good quick breakdown about the overall of certain energies, and it tells you like exactly where certain planets are placed at this time. It tells you the meaning of the planets, like the spiritual connection to the planets and things like that. So that's the good thing about this website. Again, this website, as you can see, is the planets today. If you want to move forward to other days, like ahead to see, you see the planets moving, it's because I'm clicking this arrow and I'm able to kind of move forward. Y'all see Chiron is also glowing. You'll know a planet is retrograde by the pink glow around the planet. Right. So that's how you know what all is retrograde. So let me go back to today so we could talk about what it looks like for today. Right now, I want to be very clear as I explain this. OK, and I want to remind y'all that I'm navigating between multiple pages. OK, so I'm not going to be able to see y'all chats always because I'm navigating between 2 pages or 3 pages, really, because I have the StreamYard open, the Patreon chat page open, and then the Planets Today page open. So right now I'm on the Planets Today page. So I will ask for you to hold your questions until I open the floor for questions if you have them. But specifically, I want to focus on the Aries retrograde energy, which Aries is a dwarf planet, also known as an asteroid. And it is currently positioned in Aries. And what I was mentioning yesterday is that Aries energy is over wild weather events like hurricanes, tornadoes, and also over fire, like wild weather events, things caused as very much aligned with Oya energy, like things that cause traumatic weather events, right? So I told y'all yesterday, and that's where the video started. I told y'all yesterday to pay close attention to like wildfires breaking out. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I even put my candle out in my house yesterday, right? Because that's the energy of this type of retrograde. You don't want to. Sometimes y'all, I go to sleep with a candle burning. You don't want to do those types of things right now. You want to just be mindful, right, and just be super careful, especially if you plan on being around water. Especially if you're traveling anywhere, check the weather of where you're traveling to. You want to be very careful, and also because of this Mercury retrograde, right? So those 2 retrogrades happening at the same time, you want to be mindful of that. Now, it shouldn't be anything too crazy and too traumatic because these 2 planets, Mercury retrograde and Aries retrograde, are trining, and trines bring us harmony. And you know they're trining because it's 120 degrees apart. So this is in Leo, 3, 6, 9, 12, 120 degrees apart, right? So there's a harmonious energy here. Now, also, aside from just weather, when we're talking about Aries retrograde, Aries is the energy of tension and conflict, right? So because it is retrograde, there is more likely for there to be tension and conflicts just in the air. And you'll be surprised how that tension is going to challenge your boundaries. And why do I say challenge your boundaries and make you uncomfortable? Because we also have Saturn retrograde in the same sign of Aries. Now, when we're talking about Aries energy, even with, I'm not talking about Eris, I'm talking about the sign of Aries. Aries is a cardinal fire sign, which, as I was saying yesterday, is all about impulsivity, passion, that fire energy, right? Also having the ability to burn things down, make sometimes some irrational decisions to just cut things off and end things, right? Aries is also a sign of quick transition and being able to shift and move very quickly, right? Because they usually make very rash decisions. So that is Aries energy. When you have the energy of, when you have the dwarf planet of Eris in retrograde in Aries, that tension is elevated under that fire impulsive energy. So I want y'all to put two and two together. This is how you assess. What does that mean? What does that, I want y'all to think. Answer that in the chat. I'm looking at the chat. What does that look like? If you have a dwarf planet that represents tension and conflict in retrograde, which retrogrades bring us challenges, what would it mean if it's in Aries? If it's in a fire sign that is all about impulsivity and passion, sudden decisions, what are people more likely to do when you have those two energies working together? Yes, Cosmo said increased conflict, popping off, fighting. Absolutely. So if you are responding, absolutely, lots of quick arguments and fights, cutting up. Come on, Star. Yes. So how could you respond to that in wellness? If you know that this is the energy right now, how could you be wellness centered when you are doing this? Concrete Rose, I want you to remind me of breakups because we're gonna talk about how you can assess how this will affect your relationship. So I want you to remind me of that again. But how could you handle that from a space of wellness? Yes, mind your mouth. How else could you handle that from a space of wellness? Slow down before responding. I agree with that as well, Grayson. Stay home. Be mindful of your words. Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is how you have to be thinking when you're assessing these energies. Yes, step back, meditations, staying in a place of awareness and be silent, breath work. Absolutely. So now y'all are giving each other recommendations on how not only to be aware of the energy, but to also be mindful of how you respond to your awareness. And what do I always tell y'all? We have to remember, you have this awareness. Most people in the world do not. So when there's this energy of tension and conflict and impulsivity, and you got somebody who your friend wants to pull up to her nigga house or wants to go fight this person, you can see where that energy is coming from. You have more of a clear, logical, rational mind because you are aware of this energy. But this is also why you don't take anything personal, because a lot of people are not aware of what they're doing or why they're doing what they're doing. So this is also why you don't take anything personal. That's another good way to respond to this in wellness. Now, let's pay attention to what else is happening first off, before we even move on from Aries, let's look at the other planetary placements or aspects that will be affecting this Aries energy. So if I'm trying to assess how will Aries retrograde affect the collective, what I want to look at are squares, oppositions, trines, even some sextiles, right? And then I'll explain which each of those aspects mean. So we have Aries right here. We already talked about all about conflict, increased tension with that retrograde energy. It's in the sign of Aries. So people are likely to be more reactive, more impulsive. We talked about that. Now, if I'm looking at, first, I'm going to start with the sextile. Sextile is 60 degrees, 3, 6, right? Sextiles bring us a sisterly energy. It's a complementary energy. So this is a good thing. This is a good thing. When you have a planet sextiling another planet, that means that it will work well with this energy. But what energy is working well with this energy? If we have an energy that is centered in conflict, that is centered in tension, and it is working directly with Pluto, sextiling. Pluto is our planet of generational changes in systems, right? So the government. What does conflict, tension in Aries, impulsivity, working with the government look like? It looks like the government having a higher increase of internal fighting, right? A higher increase of discourse within the community of the government, right? So fallouts between officials, fallouts between politicians, maybe even so much conflict that it could potentially lead to a bigger issue later on down the line, right? So consider that. All right. Because again, it's more likely to work, that conflict and tension energy is more likely to work inside the government. Now, the thing is, it won't destroy them though. Right? It's going to teach them a lot of lessons, but this is not a time where we're going to see the government break down and have a permanent a breakup or disbanding. It will be some challenges, but it's not going to be detrimental. The only way it would be detrimental and potentially cause things to be thrown off balance is if there was an opposition, right? If there was an opposing, if Pluto was opposing Aries, then it could likely throw them off balance and cause challenges to the balance of the government, right? To that energy. So when you think of oppositions, I want you to think of the scales balancing each other out. So squares can cause a challenge, 90 degrees, and 180 can also cause a challenge, but they're different types of challenges. In opposition, right? Opposing is like scales having issues. The challenge is it throws things off balance. When you have a square 90 degrees, it's the way I think about squares is they want to be in relationship, but they just can't get right. Right? They want to be together and connected, but it's something that's causing a conflict that's just keeping them apart a little bit, but they fuck with each other. It's a conflict of interest. Squares cause a conflict of interest. Oppositions cause a being thrown off balance and out of balance. There's no direct oppositions with Aries that we need to pay attention to. That sextile, we can see some tension and some conflict in the government, especially because Pluto is also retrograde. So that retrograde is a sign that it will be internal and not external. So it's not going to directly affect the people. They'll have more infighting than external fighting that will directly affect the people. Now, let's look at the other side. And this is where Concrete Rose said breakups, right? So also sextiling Uranus, 3, 6. So we have Venus. Venus is our planet of love and relationships. If Aries is sextiling Venus, I just explained how it works for Pluto sextile. What does that mean for relationships and conflict in relationships? What does that mean? What does that mean if I think about what I just said about the sextile and Pluto? What does that mean for Venus? There will be infighting in the government. Yeah, that's happening now. Is it happening now? I didn't even pay attention to that. I've detached from what's going on with the government a little bit. Heightened. Well, Leilani, hold on. Is it going to be heightened breakups, right? Because think about what I just said with the government. It's likely not going to cause a disbanding, right? Because this is a sisterly energy. So it's likely not going to cause a disbanding, but yes, it'll be arguments, lots of internal fighting. Now, the only way it will lead to breakups is if they are making rash, impulsive decisions. And that will be more likely in Aries. Right now, Venus, our relationship energy, is in Gemini. Now, what that looks like is people will kind of like start having, again, internal fighting. That Gemini energy is like, I don't know, how do you describe this in a relationship? You know how you be with your man and y'all mad at each other, but y'all act like everything is all good, but deep down inside, both of y'all is feeling a type of way about some shit. That's the energy. Yes, giving very petty. That's the energy. Yes, nagging. That's the energy. Like it's, I'm not going to break up with you because Gemini is very adaptable. So they will adapt to the energy of conflict. I'm either going to act like I'm not mad, but deep down inside, I really feel a type of way. Or we know that we beef and we know that we arguing, but we just going to adapt to this energy and keep on going. But more than likely, not breakups, but there will be an increase of conflict. But y'all will be able to work through this conflict. Okay. So this energy is not detrimental to relationships. But here's the thing. Now, how will these conflicts come up? This is, and when I say how will these conflicts come up, we want to look at what energy is harmonious in working with this tension energy. See, a lot of people don't know how to assess how tension is going to show up, right? This is how you assess how tension is going to show up, how conflict is going to show up. What energy is trining or bringing harmony to the conflict? What energy is complementing the conflict? What energy is the conflict working with? Aries 3, 6, 9, 12 is trining Mercury retrograde. Mercury is our planet of communication, transportation, technology, agreements. The energy of Mercury being retrograde, challenges in communication, is working with the energy of tension. So, how will your tension more likely show up? How is your tension going to show up? Your tension is going to show up in the form of conflict, argument, miscommunication, gossip, people talking about you, right? Things like that, people being rude, right? The energy of communication is working with the energy of tension. It's harmony in those energies. They're working with each other. So the retrograde of Mercury and the retrograde of that tension and conflict, what else would that look like? That means that you have to be mindful to not have tension over transportation issues, not have road rage, people cutting you off in traffic, people causing avoidable accidents, right? That energy is working together. So that is likely how that conflict and tension will show up, right? So this is how you assess and you put things together. Now I'm telling you how it will affect the overall. Also technology. Look what we've been experiencing, right? Mercury retrograde challenges our personal technology. My laptop is my personal technology, right? What's interesting is that AI is thriving right now and doing really well, but which is the collective technology. But my personal technology, my Wi-Fi, my internet access, my laptop, certain things are like having issues. Tension and conflict could come from that if you respond with that Aries energy, that impulsivity, taking things personal, making rash decisions. If you respond with that energy, those things could frustrate you. And this is the beautiful thing. So what do we do with all of this? We explained how this tension and conflict energy will affect us. We talked about how we can practice wellness, right? We gave each other wellness tips on how to deal with this type of energy. But now let's talk about what other ways may this tension energy and conflict energy challenge us or really show us ourselves, because we have a lot of retrogrades. Now, we talked about Chiron retrograde. Queen Elle did a great job of breaking that down yesterday. I think something the sister said that kind of stuck with everybody was, it's time for the healers to heal. So as Chiron starts to retrograde, starts to station retrograde starting tomorrow night and really moving into the 31st. Do we have a 31st of July? I think so. I'm not good with the third, which month is 30 days and which month is 31. I think we got a 31st of July, but you know what I'm saying, huh? You know what I mean, huh? Okay, so starting tomorrow night, the 30th, and going into the 31st, Chiron retrograde will really start to pick up, and again, that planet will be retrograde until, or that asteroid will be retrograde until January. So both of these energies are going to be working together. Now, if they're in the same sign, which means they will directly affect each other. So retrograde causes us to look within. Family, I want y'all to think about this, right? Because when you're doing this work on your own, this is how you have to be able to think for yourself. If Chiron retrograde is in the same sign as Eris retrograde, which is Aries, and both of those energies are working together. If Eris is all about challenges coming up in the form of tension and conflict, and Chiron is the wounded healer and really forcing you to kind of do that shadow work. And retrogrades as a whole is causing us to be introspective. I want y'all to think about this for yourselves. Where may our healing come from? How may we become aware of what healing work we need to do? We will see ourselves through facing what? What will we face, and how will we be able to see ourselves? What will show us who we really are in this time? Others, by going within. Absolutely. Absolutely. Triggers. Come on now, Sunflower. Come on now, Golden. Your trauma will be triggered. Absolutely. Shadow work. Yes. Understanding your triggers. Absolutely. Challenges. Absolutely. Challenges and bad habits. Thank you, Victoria. How you respond. How you respond. So as Queen Elle mentioned yesterday, that Chiron retrograde is all about the healer healing. Everybody who thinks that they are healed and everybody who thinks that they are great, This is your time to really see who you are by how you deal with these challenges and these conflicts. And you will know what you need to work on and what triggers you have yet to address or what triggers you need to be better with by how you deal with these conflicts. So when your technology is breaking up, are you getting frustrated? Are you getting angry? Are you slamming the laptop down and giving up on things? When people are trying to trigger you and trying to push your boundaries, because boundaries will be pushed. And how do we know your boundaries will be pushed? What else is retrograde in Aries? So how do we also know that tension and conflict is going to push those boundaries? What other planet is retrograde in Aries? You really can't see it on the map because Neptune is stacked on top of it. Yes, Saturn. Thank you, Goddess Kira. Saturn. Saturn is also retrograde in Aries. So your boundaries will be pushed. People are going to try to invade your privacy. People are going to try to disrespect you and do certain things to kind of test your energy. This is the time to not just show them, but show yourself who you are. So what we all need to be doing is assessing our own responses. And even if you don't respond externally, I'm talking about internally, y'all. And again, shout out to Queen L with the "it's time for the healers to heal," because it's easy to, I'm not going to say easy because it's not easy for some people, but as you grow in this journey, I'm telling y'all from personal experience as somebody who used to not mind a little tussle, once you get to the space where you know how to walk away, the real battle becomes working on yourself to the space where they don't even trigger you at all. Because I'm telling you how I used to be. I used to be able to walk away, but when I would walk away, I would still feel so angry and so livid. And I would vision myself beating their ass, right? Like I would be like, I feel pussy because I should have whooped that hoe. If she only knew it back in the day, I would have smacked that bitch. I used to walk away and be having these battles with myself. But that was a sign that I still had work I needed to do, right? Because that means that I'm still emotionally triggered by this. When my boundaries are pushed, when I feel disrespected, it still triggers this high level of anger in me that carries with me, or that I carry throughout the day, right? And for a long time, even after I've walked away from that situation. So what can I work on? And I'm gonna give y'all the cheat code. What helps me, even in the moment, right? When I feel disrespected and I feel like I'm getting tried, somebody's pushing my boundaries. It's become easy now for me to walk away and not physically respond. But I learned to literally breathe out the emotional response. That's my wellness practice. As I breathe out the energy of anger, I release it. Right? I breathe it out. And sometimes it takes a minute of breath work, right? But I release it and breathe it out, and I recenter myself. So I don't just immediately go into I am mantras. I go into acknowledging that energy and breathing it out, releasing it from my chest, because that's usually, for me, that's where I hold anger. I hold anger in my heart, in my chest area, my heart chakra area. So I feel it. You feel your adrenaline running, chest pumping, like I feel that. And I would acknowledge the fire in my chest, and I'm breathing that fire out through fire breaths, right? So rapid breaths, and then I breathe it out, and then I kind of slowly slow my breaths down and regain control of my body. Once my body feels relaxed and calm, then I chant my I am mantras to reset my energy. So that's just my tip on how I do it. But you may realize, and I'm not just talking about with people pushing your boundaries, but like I said, the example with technology, right? Your technology is acting up. Don't get frustrated and just slam the laptop. You know what? Fuck this shit. I can't, people do that all the time out of frustration. Don't just do that. Do the same thing. Where am I feeling these emotions in my body? Let me grab that energy and breathe it out, release it. You may need to walk it out. You may need to stretch it out. You may need to smudge it out. You may find what wellness practice works for you, right? I have a sister queen who she literally moves it out of her body. So for example, if she's feeling it in her chest, she moves it, like presses and moves it out of her body, which I think is great. Some people do tapping, right? They do tapping on sensitive points. There's many different things you can do to move that energy energy out of your body. But this is a time where you all will get the opportunity to be able to do that. Say, shed the shrooms. The shrooms, okay? Understandable. So we talked about Aries. We talked about how that wounded healer Chiron retrograde, what this conflict will look like, and as far as showing us ourselves and giving us the opportunity to do that deep shadow work. And what that deep shadow work really looks like is identifying how you are triggered by these tensions and conflicts, identifying a healthy wellness response, while also getting to the root of that trigger. Why does, and this is something I had to think for myself, y'all, when it came to Chiron and doing my shadow work, when it came to anger and fighting and things like that, I had to ask myself, why do certain things make me feel disrespected? What I realized, cutting from the long story to short, what I realized for me is that growing up in the community I grew up in, anybody who grew up in the hood, you know this, we have a very skewed definition of disrespect. Right. And this is why I'm always pushing y'all to define things, because it was so many things that we received as disrespect that was really like not even that serious. You know what I'm saying? So I realized that the one of the roots to my anger trigger was that I just had a very sensitive definition of disrespect. And it's because I had a very sensitive definition of respect. My definition of respect was so fragile that it was easy to make me feel disrespected. And when I felt disrespected, I didn't have a healthy response to disrespect. Right? So I had to do that work. That was my shadow work. That's that Chiron retrograde work, right? So this is how you do some of that thinking to get to your triggers. Now, I want to talk about one more aspect with this tension and conflict energy, also that wounded healer, boundaries being pushed, is that we also have Neptune retrograde, right? In Aries as well. With that Neptune retrograde, what does that mean and what does that look like? Okay. Now, when we have Neptune retrograde with this energy of tension and conflict, with that wounded healer telling you to do this shadow work, also with not Aries, with Saturn retrograde and boundaries being pushed, when we have our planet of dreams and spirituality also retrograde in that energy, this is the time, and I've already told y'all, a lot of people will have a lot of tension in their sleep, a lot of difficulty sleeping because you're having super intense dreams, right? There will be some revelations in your dreams, but more than likely what's being revealed to you is what you need to work on, memory blocks that you may have in your life, and those triggers are being shown to you. So this is the time where people from your past may be popping up in your dreams, people that you stopped speaking to, exes, old people who used to like, oh, I used to work with this person, or I went to school with that person, and they popping up in my dream. Somebody who transitioned who you haven't properly grieved, right? These are the types of things that are coming up in your dreams. So you need to pay attention, because even your dreams are telling you things that you need to heal, things that you need to work on, things that you may need to address. So pay attention to your dreams for that reason. But also, if you're having difficulty sleeping, you're having tension in your dream energy, what is a wellness practice that y'all can implement? And I want y'all to answer this in the chat. What is a wellness practice that you can implement to kind of bring some ease to that area, to help you get a more restful night's sleep, to help you relax your mind and your body when you prepare for sleep? What are some wellness practices, some spiritual practices? Yes, herbs, the oranges and cinnamon above the bed, meditation, Dhammayana, absolutely, meditate, yoga, absolutely, burning lavender, journaling, absolutely. Farah said her child has been having bad dreams, cleansing before bed, listen to frequencies, blue lotus tea, stretching, skull cap. So you see chamomile, come on now, you see how y'all are helping each other sounds. So this is how we do this work, setting intentions, absolutely, Queen L, sound baths, coloring, absolutely, smoke bowls near the bed, for sure. Egg cleanse before bed, for sure. It was called that Olympia. Y'all, everybody look up Olympia. So yes, bay leaf under the pillow, for sure. A shower before bed, absolutely, Kwani. So you see how y'all are helping each other. So this is how you think for yourself, right? So when you are aware of the energy, like I said, the beautiful thing about this awareness, it's not that you won't be affected by the energy of tension and conflict. It's when we think from a wellness mindset, we practice our awareness of the energy of tension and conflict, we understand how this energy might impact us, because you don't know if it's for surely going to impact you personally until you apply your natal chart to it, which we'll talk about that next. You don't know for sure it'll impact you personally until you apply the natal chart. But so we know how this energy might impact us as a whole. And then you immediately start thinking about some wellness practices that if I am affected by this energy, this is how I can handle it. But then we also have a community mindset, because now that y'all are aware of what wellness practices to use, if you know how you can use these wellness practices, when you see somebody else being affected by this energy of tension and conflict, your cousin is saying, hey, I'm having a hard time sleeping. Your coworker is saying, oh my God, my computer is fucking up and I can't even do my damn job. I'm so pissed. When you see people being directly affected by this energy, as a healer, as a wellness-centered person, as a spiritual person, what can you do? What do you do? How do you show up? How do you function? You show up from a wellness-centered perspective, because you are aware of what's going on. And not only are you aware, but you also have the remedy, healer. You also have the remedy, healer. You are the healer of the community. You see what I'm saying? You also have the remedy. So when you see people moving in frustration, you see people moving in conflict, you see people allowing this energy to take them over, you can say, hey, Sister Queen, have you ever thought about tapping? Just try doing this to kind of release some of that energy. You know, try to move that energy out of your body. Hey, sis, I see you frustrated. Breathe with me. Breathe with me, girl. It's just, listen. And some people don't want to hear, oh, it's Mercury retrograde. So you don't even have to say that. You can just say, I acknowledge and I see you. I see the energy you are in. Let's try this to help move this out. Hey, I got this lavender essential oil here. Breathe this oil in, Sister Queen, and just do some breath work with this to help it relax your energy. That's how you are the healer of the community, because you already got your oils in your purse, baby. You got your herbs ready. You see somebody at work frustrated, you got them tea bags in your purse. You can say, here, take a couple of these chamomile tea bags and calm yourself down. And let me make you a cup of tea, girl. Let's calm down and let's talk about this. Okay, let's breathe this out, honey. That's how you become the healer of the community. Okay, so consider that. Now, I just want to talk about one more thing before we talk about the planetary alignment, because we talked about the sextiles. We talked about we didn't talk about the squares. Okay, so we talked about the sextiles, we talked about the trines, we didn't talk about the squares. My apologies, y'all. So if we look 3, 6, 9, we have Jupiter, our planet of expansion and wisdom, ideas and philosophies, in Cancer. Now, Cancer energy, as we know, Cancer is all about that energy of emotion, but also that energy of the divine feminine and intuition, right? So a lot of people's intuition, a lot of people's understanding and connection with their intuition will be increased right now. It will be expanded because of that Jupiter energy, right? So the good thing about this is that that's a very beautiful energy. Now, what the square is again, it shows up as like a conflict of interest, right? So the only challenge will be, are you going to follow that intuition? Are you going to move in that intuition? Okay, so that will be your only challenge. Are you going to follow that intuition and move in that intuition? So this is really going to be a battle of, because of that Neptune retrograde as well, because that intuition, that expansion of intuition is being challenged by that Neptune retrograde energy, also being challenged by that energy of tension and conflict. Are you going to move in that intuition? Are you going to be conflicted and allow the ego to take over? So that is what that will show up like. So one of your own internal battles is going to be to move intuitively, right? To move from a space of spiritual wellness, not allowing your first egoic desire or response to take over, but are you going to move from a space of spiritual wellness? That is going to be the challenge with that energy, okay? Now, I think I spoke about the important ones. And just to be clear, when we are assessing aspects, I like to go both ways. Some people go, as Queen mentioned, some people go counterclockwise. Some people prefer to go clockwise. I like to go both ways and assess aspects affecting both ways, because just from my experience, I truly feel like I'm affected by aspects going both ways. But some people prefer to go counterclockwise. Some people prefer to go clockwise. I heavily advise assessing both directions, right? But you do what feels well for you. And the only way you'll know what feels well for you is by paying attention over time. And Queen L and I will get way more into detail about these things when we do the beginners class, right? Because hopefully Queen and L, I know we'll be aligned in intention. When we do the beginners class, y'all, the beautiful thing about that class is it's going to be, we'll talk about aspects, right? So we'll talk about trines and squares and oppositions. We'll talk about modalities, mutable versus fixed versus cardinal. We'll talk about zodiac signs, right? We'll talk about, of course, the planet, the spiritual meaning of the different planets and asteroids, dwarf planets, etc. So that's what the beginners class will look like. It'll look like a breakdown of all of that, right? And then that way you'll be able to understand how things work together. Now, let me just go ahead and get to the natal chart because I don't want to be before y'all long, honey. We was on here for 2 hours yesterday. I don't even know how much time it's been. Right now, we are already at 4 minutes. Okay, so I don't want to be before y'all long, and we're gonna meet tonight for American Horror Story. Okay, so I don't want to take up too much of y'all time. But when it comes to applying your natal chart, so think about everything I just explained. The first thing you want to do is understand the placements of the all. Right, this is what you want to do. So what I just broke down is the collective effect. The collective effect, right? This is how the placements of how it may affect the all, right? But to understand how it will affect you is you need to put your placements in this diagram, right? Understand your placements. And you could go from planet to planet to planet, right? And understand how you will be affected. So I'm going to use myself for example. I'm an Aquarius sun. Right? So my sun would be here in Aquarius. What is the sun? Our sun is our connection between our highest divine self, our Ori, and the highest divine source. So your sun is all about your ability to be able to move in your higher self. If I want to know how this Aries retrograde is going to challenge my ability or affect my ability to move in my highest divine self, I need to pay attention to how it is, what aspect or how it is affecting my sun placement, which is in Aquarius, right? So my sun is in Aquarius. How will my highest divine self be challenged by this energy of tension and conflict? Well, just like I mentioned for Pluto, it is sextiling, okay, which means it's complementing this energy. So that means that this energy will not destroy me or cause a long-term effect or fallout, or likely it won't even cause any external issues. This is going to be more of an internal challenge of tension and conflict and how it will show up for me, right? Now, how it'll affect me. Now, how will I be affected by the energy of Saturn and Neptune and Chiron retrograde? Same thing, because it's all sextiling my sun. So my ability to show up in my highest divine self is going to be more of an internal challenge. But what is the internal challenge, right? What will that internal challenge look like for me? It will look like me pushing my own boundaries and moving myself out of my own comfort zone, right? Because of that Saturn retrograde. It will look like me being challenged to really follow my own intuition and not go against my spirit, right? It will also look like me being challenged by directly having those dreams and those understandings of what I need to work on and what I need to pay attention to, right? And all of that happening very internal. For me, it will be more internal battle and struggle, not necessarily being challenged by people externally or really having a hard time with that, but more internal tension and conflict with following my intuition and following my highest divine self, more internal issues in that, not issues per se, but challenges in that way, right? So again, I would have to work on or be mindful of leading with my highest divine self, but also taking up the mantle of the challenge, because the beautiful thing about the sextile is it will grow me. It will grow me, right? So it will grow my connection with my highest divine self if I really pay attention to those moments that maybe my ego is challenging my highest divine self. If I pay attention to those moments that my comfort zone is being challenged, or I feel the desire to step out of my comfort zone and I actually move forward and maybe do it, right? It will maybe elevate my connection to my highest divine self. So that may be how that part of me is affected. Now, how will my emotions be affected? Well, let me look at my moon in Capricorn, right? Because our moon is our emotion body. My moon is in Capricorn. So how may I be emotionally affected by Aries, right? That Aries retrograde. Well, 369, it is a square. So that Aries retrograde, again, that energy of tension and conflict, squaring, being a conflict of interest with my emotions, that may look like me having the urge to cry, having the urge to express certain emotions internally that I don't maybe feel comfortable with. Again, stepping out of the boundaries, the comfort zone, right? Because again, Saturn is also going to be squaring that moon, right, in the same sign with Aries. So me having to step out of my emotional comfort zone, my emotional boundaries that I maybe set up for myself. So Capricorn energy is more structured in emotion. If I'm challenged to step outside of my comfort zone of emotion, I may have to step outside of that structure a little bit, be more free flowing with my emotional expression, be more free flowing with how I share my emotions, right? Which I did that the other day, right? When I was crying about Etta, right? So just really stepping out of the box of my comfort zone and practicing more vulnerability would be a challenge for me during this time. But again, a challenge that if I take up the challenge, it will grow me and elevate me. So that's what it looks like to understand how you will be directly affected. That's how you apply your natal chart to the placements. So you understand the overall placements, but then you assess each of your planet placements and do the same exact process with your own placement. So if you want to know, for example, your relationships, right? Say, for example, your Venus is in Libra, right? Libra would be a direct opposition, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 80, 18, excuse me, 180. So direct opposition. So Venus is in Libra, that direct opposition, that causing a unbalancing of the scales, right? A challenge, a opposition, a challenge to the balancing of your scales. Don't be surprised if your relationship feels out of balance. If you feel like you and your partner can't find a like interest or can't find a common ground to a conflict, right? Again, tension and conflict, increased conflicts and arguments, but really centered in the fact that there is no compromise to some of the conflicts and arguments. That's what that Venus and Libra energy will look like and how you will be affected by this Aries opposition. But that Venus is in Libra, which is all about the balancing of the scales. So more than likely, you will be the one willing to come to a common ground, right? You will be the one willing to compromise, but there may not be a solution that is good enough for them. So what could you do during that time? How do you handle that energy? You want to look at all the other placements, right? All the other placements to decide, well, what would be the best way to handle that energy? Do I want to make an impulsive decision and break up? No, because that's what this energy wants me to do. This energy is telling me to move impulsively because it's in that Aries, that impulsivity, that fire, right? So this energy is telling me to move impulsively. This energy is telling me to do the breakup. Do I want to break up? No. Well, what energy is trining? How should I resolve this? What is trining? If I'm in in Libra, what energy is trining my Venus? Because I want my relationship to work. 3, 6, 9, 12. Oh, shit. Venus. Venus is in Gemini trining my Venus. What does Venus in Gemini mean? Venus in Gemini means being adaptable, being mutable, being able to kind of go with the flow. If my Venus is in Libra and I want my relationship to work, so in order to make it work, I'm going to look at what planet or what energy is trining my relationship energy, my Venus, and I see that Venus is also trining my Venus, then what am I going to do? How can I tap into that Venus in Gemini energy? What you can simply do is understand what Venus and Gemini looks like in a healthy way and tap into practicing that, right? So Venus and Gemini, Venus is our planet of relationships, beauty, values. If I'm in that energy, how can I be, again, Gemini is all about being adaptable, being able to kind of go with the flow, being able to switch sides, right? That twin energy. How can I tap into another side of myself and elevate that side of myself to bring harmony to this relationship energy? And what that looks like may be, again, Venus is all about beauty, sensuality. That may be look like, you know what, we having conflict, we having tension. I don't want to do this. Let me just throw my sexy shit on. Let me put on my run a little bath water, set a little intimate scene, and let me add some sensuality into this situation. In order to heal this energy, let me tap into my sensual side. Let me enhance my divine feminine. Let me be adaptable in that way. You know what? Because Venus trine and Gemini is telling me to adapt, maybe I want to be the one to just let them have this. I don't even want to battle. You know what? We can't come to a common ground. We can't come to a compromise. I'm going to just let you get this W right now. You got it. You know, so that is one way that you can tap into that energy. So that is how you place your natal chart and you assess your natal chart in alignment with the overall planetary alignment. Okay, family. So everybody can do that right now. You have a breakdown or understanding of the overall planetary alignment, specifically with these retrogrades. You can run through each of your placements and understand its aspect or its complement to the other planetary placements for the overall, so you can know and understand how to move. Like I said yesterday, and I will continue to say, I need to plug up my laptop. Let me see what percentage I'm on. Okay, I should be good until we close out. But like I kept saying yesterday, y'all, this is layers of knowledge and information. And when Queen Ella and I do the Astrology 101, we will break this down even further, even more, okay, so that you can all have a better understanding. But the only thing I could tell you is the best way to do it is through practice, right? So I just gave y'all a quick breakdown talking about these retrogrades, but y'all have to practice this. And I just gave you tips on how to practice it. So hopefully this video saves. I know the internet, I'm still getting the loading sign. So I know the internet is a little wonky. Hopefully this video saves and y'all will be able to go back and be able to watch it so that you can practice this. Again, understanding the overall alignment and then applying the overall alignment to your personal alignment through your natal chart. Okay, family. And remember, the key is in all of this is you have to be wellness centered. Don't just stop at, oh, well, you know, there's tension and conflict. What did I keep asking? What did I keep asking? How can you respond to this from a wellness centered space? Venus, oh my God, there's a Venus opposition. Well, how can you respond to this from a wellness-centered space? Don't forget to always end with that question. How can I respond to this energy from a wellness-centered space? What other energy can I tap into to elevate the wellness? That's how you be wellness-centered, right? That's how you manifest wellness in your own life. Kwani, sometimes sleep is exactly what it is, especially when Neptune is direct, honey. When Neptune is direct and it is trining or sextiling or conjunct with a certain placement, the best thing to do is sleep. Sometimes that I always say Neptune, yes, Neptune is our planet of dreams and spirituality, which means it's also our planet of sleep and rest. Okay, sometimes that Neptune energy is saying go to bed, right? But right now Neptune is retrograde. Okay, so that going to bed, a lot of this work is also going to come up in your sleep and in your dreams. Okay, so you go to bed, you might be tussling in your sleep and don't know why. Okay, but again, we talked about what's some things y'all can do to bring some ease to that energy too. So you can take a nap if you utilize your wellness practices. You can get some good rest if you utilize your wellness practices. So I just wanted to share that with y'all, family, about how we think about this energy. How do we assess this energy? How do we move in awareness of this energy? How do we practice wellness in this energy? How do we heal ourselves and heal others in this energy? This is what we do. This is what we do. This is what we do, family, okay? And y'all have the ability to do all of this for yourselves, okay? You don't have to depend on anybody else to do this. You have the ability to do this for yourself, but you just have to be intentional about taking your time, being patient with yourself, and studying. Start with one planetary. The easiest one is start with your sun. Your sun is your highest divine self, or start with your moon placement and assess where is your moon place and how do the other planetary placements that's happening for the overall affect your moon placement, so that way you can understand how your emotions may be affected by this energy. Or like I said, start with your sun so you can understand how your highest divine self may be affected by this energy. Okay, family, I love y'all dearly. I will, God's will, inshallah, this recording, this live will be recorded, and I'll be able to repost the replay in about an hour or so. I will see y'all tonight at 8 p.m. for American Horror Story. Okay, y'all be well, be wellness centered, and enjoy your day. I love y'all dearly, family. Much peace and much wellness. Okay, bye, you all. Peace.